I have seen his uniform in Nazi war films. Sure, I know he's an American. Then he looked at me and he said, "Me no Russian. You understand that?" "No Russian." "Yeah, yeah." Then he looks and says, "Good man, good man. You understand?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Good man," he said, and he opened the door to the first aid building and he motioned us in. And I thought, I can't leave. There were 2 cots and blankets in it. I thought, okay, I go in, I fight later. So I went in, I said, "Yeah." And listen, that guy closed the door from the outside and I heard the steps go away. And I said to my girlfriend, "We can't both asleep. One has to keep watch. They're going to do something to us." And I said, and by that time we both were gone. We were totally wiped out, totally exhausted, half-starved. It was just, we were out. And I don't know how long we slept, but there was that knock on the door. And the door opened and we came out of that exhausted sleep. I forgot where we were. "Who is it? What do you want?" And in the door frame stood an American army cook. And he grinned from here to here. And he had a tray loaded with food. And he looked, see, we had 2 on that cot and just sitting, oh! And he looks down at us and he says, "Do you want to eat?" And we didn't need any interpretation. I said, "Yeah." So he put that tray down between us. And my girlfriend and I just looked at the tray, and so did the cook, the American cook. And it never dawned on me that we could eat all the food on that tray. This is hard for you to understand, but after World War II, the food value in East Germany, where I just had come from, was 1 golden wedding ring for 1 loaf of bread. And then there's a whole load of food. What do they want for it? Do they eat first? Do I get the crumbs? So we all just look at it. So finally the army guy just looks at us and he says, "Why don't you eat?" And I look up and I say, "Alles, all?" And he nods. Now I can't believe I ate the whole thing, but I did. We just ate it up. And folks, that was all food. We didn't know anymore how food tasted, and I'd never tasted American food. I didn't know what white bread was or any of that stuff, you know. It just tasted fantastic. You know, sometimes when I tell American GIs that American breakfast food is one of the best things I ever tasted, you should hear them howl with laughter. They think it isn't so good. But for us, it was just the best stuff I had ever eaten. And after that, when we had eaten, the guy comes in and he takes the tray out and he says, "Go back to sleep." And by then I nod. And the guy closes the door and leaves again. And so he said, "Go back to sleep." And we tried, but with all the food they had given us, they had given us a big cup of American Army coffee. I had never in my life had coffee, ever. Honey, I was so wide awake. I said to my girlfriend, "We can't sleep, let's move out before anything happens. It's too good to be true." And so we took some dry clothes out of our knapsack and brushed our hair and got out and tried to sneak out, and of course they called us back. And see, the great tragedy of brainwashing is that when they set your head in cement because they have taught you to hate, they give you only one side of a story, that you cannot just switch your thinking. And after all the friendly treatment, I walked out of that American barrack expecting to be hurt. I thought, there's a trick to it. They were good to me, so I relaxed, so I wouldn't fight, but they get me. And I walked out, muscles tight. And I thought I'd still fight, even so they fed me. And I walked away, and I walked quite a ways, and then I turned around because they didn't seem to come to hurt me, and there were the American GIs in the middle of the woods in that barrack waving after us. You know, that's what American GIs do when they are bored and a young girl, 19 years of age, walks past their window. Americans love to look. And they waved and they shouted and they said a lot of things, and I have no idea what they said. Not then. I have a pretty good idea today what they said. And folks, I know what I said. I stood there and I looked into those smiling faces and those waving arms and I said, Danke, danke. Thank you, thank you. And they will never know, unless I find them someday, what they did. They changed my life. You couldn't have argued with me. I was too brainwashed. You couldn't have done it with words, but you had something, and I had no word for it. But it was so powerful that I thought, wait a minute. The Nazis lied to me, and there is something the Americans have that I don't know. I'm going to find it. And I'm going to go to America someday. And folks, I stood there, confused Nazi youth leader, almost 19 years of age, bedraggled, not knowing which end was up, and I thought, someday I'm going to do something nice for American soldiers. They have been good to me, and I want to be good to them. And you know what I know today? That God stood beside me and he said, child, someday I'm going to give you the desires of your heart. And you say, Hansi, how would you know that God said that? You know, I was still a Nazi. But let me tell you something. God already knew I would be his child, because God loved me while I was yet his enemy. And he loves all of us while we are yet his enemies. And he knows who is going to respond to the call. And I went out into West Germany, a very confused young woman, thinking, where do I go? Where do I begin? Where are the answers? What is truth? And I wished I had the time to tell you in detail. Let me just give it to you in a nutshell. I thought that truth had to be somewhere a philosophy. It had to be a way of life. It had to be something, you know, something very idealistic and special. But I knew one thing, that it had to be something that nobody could punch a hole into, because they just had destroyed everything I had believed in. And so I thought, whatever it is, nobody can punch a hole into this. And after I checked it all out, every philosophy I read and I searched, I found out that truth is something that I didn't expect, because I didn't know what I was looking for. But I know something today. If you sincerely look, you will find the same thing. Because the Bible says that all those who seek me sincerely with all their heart shall find me. Because truth is not a doctrine or a philosophy, not even a religion. Truth is a person.